Company of Heroes 3 is a strategy game featuring 4 distinct factions, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. And today, we're going to be diving into the Axis Infantry and their strengths and weaknesses. With me today, always reliable, Johnny. You want to say hi, Johnny?
Hello.
So, in this quick overview of Axis Infantry, let's start with the Assault Grenadiers from the dock. These suckers are very potent in close range, they have a fantastic grenade ability, and if I'm not mistaken, they have smoke, correct?
Yes. They also can come in with a half-track, or they can be built regularly, so there's easy access to them. Overall, they're a pretty good assault infantry unit, especially for deck.
Yeah, I think they are extremely potent, but I think that I would put them in B at the moment. We'll just have to wait to see how the rest of the infantry play out, but right now, I think they're like the top of B easy. But you know what's at the top of S? Our next choice. The Dock Bersaglieri. While they don't have a tank snare, they do have basically everything else you need. Potent upgrades for the battle group that houses them, a grenade ability that you don't need to unlock. I mean, they have sprint, which just means that they can get to the front fast. So it's everything that you want in a unit, reasonably priced.
Only downside is their cost initially, which is 320 manpower, and their reinforce rate, which is rather high. But other than that, they're a big sledgehammer early on. You can just swing into something at high speed and smack someone. And especially with the way the cover mechanics work and the high ground mechanics in this game, if you can secure the position before the enemy or drive them out of it and use speed to get into it, you can basically make it really hard for the enemy to take back.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that assessment. So we just S, I think this is like just an easy S. Do you want to take the lead on the Gustatori for Doc?
They're not what they used to be, unfortunately. They lost their anti-tank snare. Didn't they also they got like an armor nerf, I believe. They're probably like the game's premier assault infantry as it stands right now. Because flamethrowers are still powerful. They have their own self-sufficient smoke. They still have submachine guns. They basically are just better assault grenadiers. If the enemy has a counter already waiting, like a light vehicle, and you've just spent manpower on them instead of anti-tank option for it, you'll suffer. So them coming in at the right time to smack something is very important.
I definitely agree with that assessment. So in that case then, with Gustatori at A, let's move on to the next one, which is the Dock Panzer Grenadiers. Now these guys, you can upgrade to 6-man squads via Dock. You do have to unlock their grenades like American Riflemen, which is a bit of a bummer, and that also includes the snare on these guys. So I think they're just like B. You know, they're good starting infantry, right?
Counterpoint, they actually can outperform riflemen at close range at the beginning of the game. I would say they're probably A tier. In my opinion, the only thing really holding them back is their cost. Like, as you stated, the upgrades and the initial cost of 300 manpower per squad. Other than that, they perform really well. It's kind of hard to put them anywhere below A just because of how baseline strong they are and how better they get.
Yeah, everything you brought totally convinces me. Let's raise them to A. I think they're right behind the Gustatori for the now, but now for the unit I think that's kind of just bad, which is the Panzerjägers. Because they come with the AT rifles. They have extremely low health, so they're like bazooka squads for the Americans. But there's so many better options for AT, like with the Martyr and such. Like, why would you get infantry as Doc? That just seems so counterproductive.
So, from my experience with these guys, they're not bad, not in the slightest. They're an anti-tank rifle squad, which is okay. It means they can somewhat fight infantry at the same time. They have passive camouflage at veterancy 0, so they can ambush things. They're pretty decent at running in. Like, if the enemy gets like a Humber or another like ultralight, the call-in with the half-track and running it at them, you can actually chase down these ultralights, and even if you lose that half-track, the half-track's effectively free. It's actually cheaper than the regular half-track call-in. So you can 1000% YOLO the half-track with the Panzerjägers in the back to kill off a vehicle and run off, or you can just ambush like reinforced trucks with them. They're really good at that.
Okay, well, I stand corrected. I've not had success in these. I've primarily been using them as like frontline, which obviously, from the sounds of it, does not sound like the proper method. Since you are more informed with this unit, where would you put them?
I'd probably say B, because the thing holding them back is their availability.
Okay. Well, you've convinced me in that regard. I think the last unit for Doc that we have at the moment is their Panzerpio. And this sucker, I actually would argue, is a fantastic unit. You get the early flamethrowers, which you can attach to the half track. You can upgrade for minesweepers. You can also upgrade to the advanced repairs. A 4-man squad compared to the Wehrmacht 3. This feels like a very solid all-rounder. Yes, it's not a close-range killer, but I don't mind. It's just an all-round great engineer.
Yeah, because they start off with the cut barbed wire ability, so you don't have to upgrade them. It's 4 men for 200 manpower, which still have actually really good rifles. They can be pretty... As long as they don't get rushed, they can do a lot of DPS at range. The early flamethrower into a half-track cheese is very prevalent with them. They also get access, though, to grenade boxes. So if you want to get 2 or 3 of them and then get them grenade boxes later on, they can tear things apart from range, because it's a grenade box. It literally just passively shoots grenades at people. But they're very good support infantry. Very, very.
No, I would agree with that. And I think that for their role, we have to keep every unit respective, like when we're rating them, of their role, how do they fare? I think for the role of an engineer, it has so many abilities, so many good ways to utilize this unit. I think at the bottom of A is where they deserve. I think because I think it's just, for an engineer, there's nothing more you could want than what they have right here.
I'd say they're probably S for an engineer.
S? Oh, wow. Okay. Right. Oh, I will agree with that assessment in a heartbeat. I think I've been very, like, I don't want to go too high with some of these units, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that set. In that case, then let's go with the next engineer. I think this one you can dive into since you seemed excited. The Fall Pio.
Yeah, the Fallschirm Pioneer squad is essentially a Panzer Pioneer, except, you know, it comes in for Wehrmacht, and it comes in at the 0 CPs and drops in from a plane. Now, unfortunately, these guys are, they're not what they used to be. They have been hit with several nerfs, because they kind of were broken way back when, like a few months ago. But they're essentially just a Panzer Pioneer that comes from the sky. That's basically what they are. They get flamethrower. No, they get not a flamethrower. They get a light machine gun, which is the only thing that they lack. It's a flamethrower. But they do get a satchel charge, which they can drop the moment they paradrop in. They also get the grenade boots at the same. They can also get the grenade boots because that is still a powerful option. So they're just good. They still are just powerful. Like I would still place them probably either low A or high A, low S at this point, because for the role of engineer and assault unit combined, they do a really good job at a really nice price point for it.
Yeah, in regards to also being able to drop anywhere on the map, I think is a great asset. So I would say let's put them in the middle of A so far, right above the Panzer Grenadier. But now we're going to the other fall, the Fallschirm Jaeger squad. 4-man infantry squads. They're rather potent against infantry, but they're not like... They feel kind of squishy. They're so like a little bit of CO2 in regards to the fact that you hit the enemy first and you feel good, but then if you're in a long protracted engagement, you just can't win.
They enable a certain strategy where you can actually completely disregard your grenadiers because of the fact that they also have a snare. So they're really great at ambushing basically anything, and their burst damage is actually really high since the entire squad is armed with FG-42s.
Let's put them at the bottom of A, at least for the moment, because I think they are locked behind the battle group, and again, they are a bit squishy. Even if they are, you do get that cost reduction. Now here's infantry that I think we're gonna agree with that are good but don't do anything great, which is just we're over to the Wehrmacht mainline infantry, and it's just the Grenadier. Now I don't think the Panzergren in the Wehrmacht is better compared to the Dock counterpart, but I think the Grenadier is definitely like a weaker frontline infantry for the Axis.
I think for its role of an early game infantry that is supposed to be replaced out with the more elite units later on, their job is to stick around for you to have the time to replace them with something better, along with having a 42 in support. So I'd say for their role, they're probably just probably top of B.
Well, in that case, then I think the top of B is a good place. They are good all-rounder infantry. Now, while we're on the topic of the Grenadier, why don't we also discuss the Panzer Grenadier and your thoughts on it in regards to, because these are upgraded, but they don't have a snare. Like, that's my biggest problem with the Panzergren, just going with complaints out of the way, is you're upgrading for better infantry, but you lack that snare ability, and you're lacking range since they switched to more close-range infantry, which in late game, I think is kind of not where you want to go.
They're not bad, they're a bit cost inefficient for their role, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you went frontline infantry, I think the Panzergrens are kind of Like they get better late game, whereas if you upgrade, I think these guys would excel, especially in like urban maps, right? Like urban environments. The place they don't is wide open maps where the enemy has like sight and range. So if you're assaulting a position, you have smoke, great. If you are crossing open country toward tanks, you are going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. Would you say like mid B?
Yeah, for the sake of being an assault infantry, they are Wehrmacht's only actual assault infantry if we exclude the MP40 package that Grenadiers can get with Breakthrough Commander. So they're okay. I like them, but there's more cost-efficient options.
Excellent counterpoint. So let's dive into now, I think what you would agree is a fantastic unit, even if they have been hit with a slight nerf bat, which is the Wehrmacht Jaeger Squad. Now these suckers, for comparison, are like Volksgrenadiers from Code 2 with the Panzertracks, as in they can do a lot of damage to armor very quickly. Now, again, they were nerfed a bit, so they're not as good as they once were in that role, but, you know, I think they still do their job quite well. Quite exceptional, some might say.
So they're good for, like, whatever role you spec them for, but they can't cross over to the other role, which is a good balancing thing, but I'd say they're probably still low S. The Shrek still is stupidly powerful against vehicles at mid to close range. It'll struggle against medium armor at longer ranges because the ready aim time and the penetration can actually have it bounce off or not even fire if a vehicle's moving. But if you can get a close range ambush off, because they do have a smoke grenade, they can mess up vehicles pretty badly. And the G43 package on them gives them access to increased sight and a flare, so they can actually pick and choose their engagements really well, or even set up things for other units.
Yeah, and the recon package, I would argue, is, yeah, fantastic. Free recon, always great. And again, the Panzertech package is so potent against armor, it's insane. So yeah, I think low S is exactly where you want to go with these guys. They are by far like one of the best things to get in regards for infantry, especially if you get a few of these suckers. Like a Sherman will turn tail and run. So with that out of the way, let's go with what I think is the weakest infantry by far we've spoken about, which is the Wehrmacht Pio. And the Wehrmacht Pio, I think, is just kind of bad. Overall, I would definitely say, but like C, if not D. I like the emplacements really keep this at a D. Like it really does. Next up for the sniper, solid meh. Honestly, like I've had success with this unit. It's not bad. It's good, but I think there's so many better infantry killing units that unless the enemy is like spamming, I don't know, MGs, it's not a unit I'm gonna turn to in any way, shape, or form.
If this was the update before, I would have put the sniper in easy D tier just because of the fact that A, blobs are more prevalent, and B, it was actually worse than the US sniper for some reason. However, right now, since they're standardized in terms of performance, I would probably place this in C, because due to the way the meta is as of recording, which is very heavily focused on infantry until it gets completely replaced by tanks for a lot of factions, this sniper just doesn't have the model picking performance to allow it to justify its cost, because you will just get overrun and pushed into infantry even if you're picking off models.
Completely agree. I think top of C is where this thing deserves, because I think it's better than the Pio, but that's like comparing like it's not a nice comparison, I'll just say that. And then lastly, do you want to go with the elite infantry? Stormtroopers. Yeah, stormtroopers. Mind going over them?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've used these before. They are okay, but even after their buffs, they are nowhere near the unit they are trying to emulate, which is Company of Heroes 2 Obersoldat. I'd say C. Your main threat for them is going to be vehicles like absolutely blasting them. And they have no counter to those vehicles. They are way too squishy for two of the vehicles because they're 4-man model count, and they are also just incredibly expensive to reinforce and maintain. So they're pretty poor, like cost efficiency wise, at what they do, and it just really holds them back.
Well, in that case, then, I think we've got all the Axis infantry listed. And again, Wehrmacht definitely suffers in regards to having what I think are the worst units. Doc definitely has, I think, the best overall, which is funny considering last discussion in regards to the tanks where they had the highest highs and the lowest lows. Here, it's really just Doc has the best, and Wehrmacht, good, not great.
It's just Doc right now sits at a point where the infantry are kind of feast or famine, because if you go for the wrong infantry build into something, you will absolutely struggle. But if the infantry are in their happy place, it's awful to fight against.
In case, guys, that is where we think Active Infantry deserve to be ranked. If you are playing Company of Heroes 3 in the very near future or jumping into consoles, do make sure you keep this in mind when you're going into the multiplayer scene. Again, we usually focus on 3v3 and 4v4 multiplayer, so don't take our word when it comes to the 1v1 or 2v2 space. In any case, I'm Greyshot151. I hope you enjoyed. I want to give a special thanks to Johnny for jumping into this, and we'll see you guys next time on Greyshot Productions. Until then, I'll catch y'all later.
Hello everyone, this is Greyshot17, and before y'all go, let me give a special shout out to Patreon supporters Joey G240, Milam, Big Cooch, Aphyria, Ace, Pyro Shark, Tony B95, Epic Pleb. Thank you all for your incredible support in helping me grow my channel and support my channel and everything I do. Thank you, and to the rest of you, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.